Hot take, Altoids are gross, but I've been obsessed with this Altoids wallets trend. So I got this pack of blank tins from Amazon. You know where to find the link. And to decorate the inside, I traced the tin onto a piece of scrapbook paper, cut those out, then stuck them to the inside with some double-sided tape. The cool thing about Altoids tins is that they're magnetic. So I stuck some mini magnets onto the back of this little dollhouse mirror that I got from the craft store. I like using UV resin for this, but you can use any type of strong glue that you have. This way you can move the mirror around however you want. You could even stick it to the outside of the tin. I tried to think of like some little things that you might need, so I put some Advil and Tylenol into one of these little miniature bottles. I added some gum, chapstick, I rolled up some money and secured it with a bobby pin. I put a mini blush, a safety pin, a hair tie. Let me know what else I should add, and come back to see how I decorated the outside in part 2. Here's how I decorated the outside of my Altoids wallet. Hot take, I do not like Altoids, so I just bought some of these blank tins from Amazon. First, I stuck a piece of scrapbook paper to the top with some matte Mod Podge. I sealed the top with more Mod Podge, added a piece of lace, then made sure that the lace would stay put with even more Mod Podge. I also added a piece of 1/8 inch ribbon around the edges of the tin, using more Mod Podge to secure it. My grandma gave me a bunch of this old costume jewelry to use for crafts, so I took the back off of this clip-on earring and I stuck it to the top with some epoxy after the Mod Podge dried. And here's how my finished wallet turned out. If you want to see how I did the inside, definitely check out part 1. I am obsessed with this trend. I used to do this all the time when I was a kid. I have a ton of these tins left, so let me know what I should do with the rest of them. Okay, I still think Altoids are gross, but people were so mad in the comments of the first video that I got tins from Amazon instead of like getting mints that I don't even like. I said I was going to use the rest of them, so here we are. This time I started with the outside of the tin. The main things that I used for this is some adhesive caulk and any sort of embellishments that you want. I ended up using one of my grandma's old clip-on earrings, some buttons, the big key was from some kind of project that I made in like middle school, the little frame was from Hobby Lobby, and the rest was from Amazon. Sorry not sorry, everything will be linked. I tried to make the decorations as flat as possible, so I broke off the back of the earrings with my pliers and used wire cutters to snip off the backs of my plastic buttons. It definitely helps to lay everything out beforehand and take a picture before you add the caulk. This DAP Quick Seal was super easy to work with. You don't need a caulking gun or anything, it's basically like frosting. I used a popsicle stick to spread out the caulk as smoothly as possible, then stuck in my decorations. I was super inspired by the memoir phone case trend that was popular a few months ago, but I had one of those Deco Den cases at one point, and bumpy phone cases like that, I mean they're cute, but they're kind of annoying, so I skipped that one. But this technique is perfect for a little jewelry box like this. I still thought something was missing, so I found a few beads and some mini seashells that I had left over from other projects, and I stuck those in as well. If you use this DAP Quick Seal, the top layer, it'll start to set after about 30 minutes, but the back says that it takes about 24 hours to fully dry. So make sure to come back for part 2 to see how I do the rest of it. Honestly, people can stay mad because we're finishing the next Altoids wallet. Some of the vintage buttons that I used, they must have had copper in them, and apparently copper makes silicone caulk turn blue. You know, you learn something new every day, but it's all good. I just found a small paintbrush and went over any blue spots with some white acrylic paint. I wanted to do something a little bit different for the edges this time, so I found some pink 1/8 inch ribbon and I made a little bow. I like using a lighter on the ends of my bows so they won't fray, but if you don't want to use a lighter, you could definitely seal them with Mod Podge or clear nail polish. I measured a piece of ribbon around the tin, folded it in half, then sewed the bow onto the middle. You could glue the bow on, but I thought that sewing it would be better since it's on the front and that's more of like a high traffic area. I used Mod Podge to stick the ribbon on just like we did last time. Then I moved on to the inside of the tin. I wanted to turn this one into sort of a mini jewelry box, so I covered the inside with felt. Since I'm making a bunch of these, I made some templates of my tin to make it easier. I made another video showing how I did that, but you'll need a top piece, a bottom piece, and one for the bottom edge. I had to trim a little bit off of the bottom piece because obviously felt is thicker than paper, but everything fit just about perfectly. The fun thing about felt is that you can sew on embellishments before you glue it in. I sewed some of that lace from the first tin to the top piece of felt to make this like little earring holder. I just folded the edges of the lace and sewed it on. And once all my felt pieces were ready, I just used some E6000 glue to glue everything in place. Just be careful not to get any glue on the top edge because you don't want to have any issues closing it. If you do, you can just wipe it off with a wet paper towel. Just press everything in there and once it's dry, you're good to go. You could roll up some felt to do one of those ring holder type deals in the bottom, but I already have a couple of those. I wasn't really feeling it, so I just left the bottom open. I don't care how mad this makes people. I think she's cute, and you know what? That's all that matters. I won't be pulling out the ukulele on this one. I'm actually not sorry, honestly. If you like these videos, I hope the algorithm brings us back together. If you don't, I'm sorry you had to watch this. Peace and love. Hot take, Altoids are gross, but I've been loving this Altoids wallets trend, so I've been trying to think of different ways to use these metal tins that I got from Amazon. This time I decided to decorate the outside with some of this tissue paper that I saved from Graveyard Girls BeautyCon box. A lot of the comments on my other videos were saying that these reminded people of 2014 DIYs, and I'm gonna take that as a compliment because that was peak internet, I'm telling you. Like, the internet honestly kind of sucks now, but here we are. Okay, don't come for me, like, some things were better, some things were worse, but I can kind of see why people want to bring this back. And you know what? I'm here for it. The tissue paper was actually super easy to apply, but it's definitely see-through, so I think if I did this again, I'd do like a layer of white or something underneath so that it would show up better. But next I just took some pearl stickers from the dollar store and I stuck those all around the edges. The sticker part on these really isn't that great, so I used some 2-part epoxy to make sure that they wouldn't fall off. Of course we can't forget the edges, so I decided to use some lace for this one. I just measured it around my tin, then used a toothpick to put some epoxy around the top edge to hold it in place. I probably should have worn gloves for this. But, you know, do as I say, not as I do, it's fine. But I think this is so cute, I'm super happy with it. I'll be back soon to show you how I did the inside. Here's how I decorated the inside of this Altoids wallet. Okay, so it's technically not an Altoids tin, which is apparently very triggering to some people, but they'll get over it eventually. To decorate the lid, I traced this template that I made in another video onto some purple felt. The great thing about felt is that you can sew things on before you glue it onto your tin. This time I wanted to add some elastic to the lid. I thought this would be a good way to store money or something. So I just pinned that to the middle of my felt and sewed it on. If you don't like sewing, you could definitely glue it, but I think sewing makes it a lot sturdier. I wanted to use some of this floral fabric for the bottom of the tin. So again, I just traced that template that I made and cut it out. I still thought something was missing, so I found this silver rose charm and I sewed that to the middle of my elastic to give it a little bit of something extra. Then I used the Me 6000 glue to stick everything down. This worked great for the thinner fabric too. I just waited for that to dry, and here's how my finished wallet turned out. I really like this idea of putting elastic at the top. You could put money in there, gum, pimple patches, blotting sheets. If you were gonna do a first aid kit, you could put like band-aids or something. It can hold thicker stuff like chapstick, but if you do that, like the only problem is you can't put too much in the bottom because then it won't close. But I love this. I think she's so cute, and I can't wait to do the next one. I don't know why people keep trying to say that I don't recycle. Like, I literally just said that I don't like Altoids, and now people are trying to start something, but anyways, my mom got me this set of Hello Kitty Pyrex bowls last Christmas, and I thought that this box that they came in was kind of cute, so I cut out a bunch of the images and I sort of like peeled the cardboard off the back. I figured that I could use them in some sort of project, and I mean, it's been like a year, but hey, I knew I'd find a way to use these eventually. I really liked how the tissue paper worked on the last one, so I found some pink tissue paper, cut a piece to fit on top of my tin, and stuck that to the top with some matte Mod Podge. I placed one of the Hello Kitty graphics that I cut out on top, and added even more Mod Podge to seal it in. After that dried, I used some more Mod Podge to stick some ribbon to the edge of my tin. I still thought there was something missing, so I found some of this pearl trim to add on top of the ribbon. I stuck on the pearls with some of this Gorilla 2-part epoxy. And I mean, you could probably use hot glue, but I wanted something a little bit more precise since these were kind of small. The only thing is, epoxy doesn't dry right away, so the pearls, like, they did not want to stay on there. So what I did, I ended up grabbing some washi tape to hold them down while the epoxy dried. And the nice thing about washi tape is that it's not usually very sticky, so I didn't have to worry about it peeling anything off. But after that dried, here's how it turned out. I'll have a playlist. I made a whole bunch of these, and if you want to see how I did the inside, make sure to come back for part 2. Here's how I did the inside of my Hello Kitty Altoids tin. I found some of this sheer Hello Kitty fabric in my mom's craft room. I have no idea what this was originally used for, but since the fabric was sheer, I traced the template that I made in part 5 onto some felt first. I cut that out, then placed it underneath the Hello Kitty fabric, traced it, and cut that out as well. I used some fabric glue to attach both pieces together, and after it dried, I cut a piece of elastic to fit on top. When you're sewing the elastic on, make sure to leave a little bit of space in between the edges of your fabric so that your tin can still close. To finish it up, I took one of these Hello Kitty charms that I got from Amazon and sewed that to the middle of the elastic. As always, everything will be linked. For the bottom of the tin, I used another graphic that I cut out from that cardboard box in part 1. This was basically the perfect size. I just needed to round out the corners. If you're gonna use something thicker on the edges like this pearl trim, your Altoids tin, it might not open the whole way. Honestly, for something like this, it's really not a big deal, but I just thought that I'd mention it. I stuck the graphic to the bottom of the tin with some matte Mod Podge, and used some Me 6000 glue to stick the felt to the top. And after everything dried, here's how it turned out. This is probably my new favorite. Like, we stan Hello Kitty, I'm obsessed with this. I still have a couple tins left, so let me know what you think I should do for the next one. Hot take, but purple is just so much cuter than pink. Like, I'm sorry, I said what I said. Literally, the main reason that I was excited for Olivia Rodrigo's new album is because, like, her theme is purple, and as a fellow purple girly, this is my time to shine. So of course I had to make an Olivia Rodrigo themed Altoids wallet. I started by adding some purple tissue paper to the top of my tin, sticking it down with some matte Mod Podge, just like we've been doing. Olivia uses a lot of butterflies in her merch. I had a lot of these butterfly patches left over from another project, so I picked out a purple one and stuck that to the top of my tin with some 2-part epoxy. The main colors on the Guts album are purple, black, red, and white, and she also uses a little bit of light blue here and there. So for the edges of my tin, I found some black 1/8 inch ribbon and stuck it on with some more Mod Podge. Olivia wears this red heart necklace in the Bad Idea Right music video. So I found some heart-shaped gems and I picked a red one to stick in the middle. The sticky part on these doesn't always work the best, so I like to use epoxy to make sure that it stays on. And here's how it turned out so far. Super simple, but super cute. If you want to see how I did the inside, make sure to come back for part 2. Olivia Rodrigo is great, we stan, and I love that she has the whole purple theme going on. I mean, all the pink stuff for Barbie was fun, but hot take, purple is the best color. So for the inside of this Altoids wallet, I started by cutting some lavender scrapbook paper to fit on top, and stuck that down with some double-sided tape. And for the bottom of the tin, I cut out a piece of black felt to match Olivia's top off of the album cover. Then I found some of this purple lace, and sewed a piece on top of the felt to make it a little more interesting. I stuck that down with some E6000 glue, then went back to finish the lid. I got a couple more of these mini mirrors from Amazon. This time I went with the silver one. I added a couple magnets to the back with some UV resin. Honestly, I could have just glued it on, but if you're gonna put thicker decorations like this, just make sure that the top can still close before everything dries. I wanted to do something kind of similar to the sour earrings from her first merch collection. And the safety pins only fit like 4 beads, but fuck it, it's fine. I thought that looked kind of crowded, so I just went with it's fine because, I mean, at least that's what I tell myself. I filled up a little bit of that space underneath with a purple butterfly bead and a couple more of those heart-shaped rhinestones. I used more E6000 glue to stick everything down. And here's how the finished wallet turned out. I love this one. I think it's so cute. Let me know what theme I should do next. Why does everyone have Lana Del Rey from 2011 as their profile picture? I mean, I love it, I'm here for it, me and these girlies would definitely be friends, but I could not find an answer. Originally, I was gonna start with white tissue paper on the top, but that ended up being a total fail, so I ended up skipping the tissue paper this time and stuck some vintage lace directly to the top with some matte Mod Podge. I used a paper towel to wipe off the extra glue, and trimmed off any excess lace once it dried. I got some of these flower stickers a while back. These are kind of cool because they're textured on the top. It's supposed to be one of those like calming fidget type deals, and I thought that the white one went perfectly with the Lust for Life album cover. Plus, I was also trying to cover up a stain on the lace. I might go back and use a stronger glue, but it seemed to stick okay. For the edges, I found some white 1/8 inch ribbon to sort of match the bows in Lana's hair on her most recent album cover. I cut a piece that was long enough to fit around my tin, and tied the rest of it into a bow. I know technically she has 2 bows in her hair, but I just did the one because, frankly, I ran out of ribbon. I like to melt the ends of my ribbon with a lighter so that they don't fray, but you could also use clear nail polish or Mod Podge or something. I sewed the bow to the middle of that piece of ribbon that we cut earlier, then used Mod Podge to secure it to the tin. And here's how it turned out. If you want to see how I do the inside, make sure to come back for part 2. Honestly, I love the Lana stands. Like, I mean, if you're gonna join a cult, this would be the one. I picked out this scrapbook paper to use for the lid. I just traced around my template, cut that out, and stuck it down with some double-sided tape. I love using these little mirrors for these. I like to use UV resin to add magnets to the back. You could definitely just glue these on, but I like the magnets because it makes the mirror adjustable. Next, I found a couple embellishments to fill up the rest of the lid. The frame charm was from Hobby Lobby. I took out the paper insert, measured it, then printed out a picture of Lana Del Rey to go inside. I just traced the insert, cut that out, and added that to my charm. I also made a small bow with some pink ribbon and burned the ends so they wouldn't fray. I feel like this just fit the vibe, honestly. I also added a couple heart-shaped charms and embellishments because, again, it just fits the vibe, I don't know. I also found this little spoon charm, because there's this like Lana Del Rey necklace, like if you know, you know. I mean, obviously, I do not endorse that, but come on, like when else would I get the opportunity to use this random spoon charm? Like, I don't know. So I stuck everything down with some E6000 glue. If you get any glue outside the charms, you can just clean that up with a toothpick before it dries. I ended up going with red felt for the bottom of the tin, and I found some of this lace with hearts on it to go on top. I stitched that down, then used more E6000 glue to stick that to the bottom of my tin. And after everything dried, here's how the finished wallet turned out. I'm actually obsessed with this, like, hopefully the Lana cult approves. Personally, 2014 was terrible. 0 out of 10 would not go back, but at least we got Taylor Swift's 1989 album. I know that the shirt on the original album cover is actually blue in real life, but I thought it was purple for like an embarrassingly long time. Also, I didn't have that color of blue scrapbook paper. So I found this tulle that's a lot closer to the actual color of the shirt, and I thought that it might look cool to kind of layer this on top. I stuck the paper to my tin with some Mod Podge, let that dry for a second, and cut off any excess paper. Pro tip, blue fabric marker on blue tulle will not show up. So I just added added some more Mod Podge to the top, then stuck on a piece of tulle that was slightly larger. Once that dried, again I just cut off the excess, then I found this white lace to sort of match the clouds on the original shirt. I stuck that down with more Mod Podge, adding even more on top to seal it in. Again, after that dried, I just cut off any excess, then I found some of this blue ribbon that's like also closer to the actual color of the shirt. I cut a piece to fit across the top, and tied some more ribbon into a bow. I sealed the ends with a lighter, folded my main piece of ribbon in half, and found some matching thread to sew on the bow. Her shirt technically has seagulls on it, but I figured that this bird charm was close enough. I sewed that on right underneath my bow, and I thought since the charm might make it heavier, that it might be better to use epoxy instead of Mod Podge, but the problem was that it kind of leaked through and sort of discolored the ribbon a little bit, so I tried to use a couple flat back pearls to disguise it. The ribbon that I used in the middle was a little bit big, so I found some of this lighter blue 1/4" ribbon to use for the edges. I just stuck that down with some more Mod Podge, and here's how the finished tin turned out. If you want to see how I do the inside, make sure to come back for part 2. Here's how I decorated the inside of my 1989 Altoids wallet. I picked up some of these 2x2" mirror tiles at the craft store. First, I traced the mirror onto a piece of paper to create a template. I wanted it to sort of look like a Polaroid, like on the original 1989 album cover. I just cut that out. Then I tested out this clay roller that I got to flatten out some white polymer clay. Using the template we made as a guide, I cut out a square, then lightly scored the lines in the middle before cutting out that section of the clay. I was so mad I accidentally broke it, but it's all good. I just used some liquid Sculpey to stick the clay back together, then baked it at 275 for 15 minutes. And once it cooled, I used sandpaper to smooth everything out, then used some epoxy to stick the clay piece to my mirror. I used the leftover glue to stick the magnets on the back, and while that dried, I went through my stash of magazine clippings, and I found a couple pages that I thought would work for the inside. I ended up going with this one. I'm pretty sure it's New York. Besties, this did not go well. I sort of ripped the top piece because I had to reposition it, and then the bottom piece was a little bit off center, so I kind of had to fix that by cutting another sky piece. It was a hot mess. But at this point, I was in too deep, so I ended up finding this blue grid pattern paper and cut a strip of it to go around the inside edge. Once it dried, it didn't look too bad. I found this Taylor Swift Polaroid ad, and I cut out one of the little cameras from the bottom. I stuck that on with some more Mod Podge. Then I found this castle charm to represent New Romantics, which is one of my favorite songs from that album. I stuck the charm and some of these pearl embellishments down with some E6000 glue. And here's how the finished wallet turned out. It's definitely not perfect. Let's be real, nothing that I make is, but I really like this one. It might be my new favorite. I definitely used to catch Gilmore Girls on TV every once in a while, but I have never seen this the whole way through. We're working on it though. We're just going to consider this season 1 themed. First, I traced the lid of my tin onto a piece of printer paper. I cut that out. Then I wanted to do something inspired by the sweater that Rory wears in episode 1. So I used a pencil to draw out a sweater design. This isn't the exact pattern on Rory's sweater, but I figured the vibes are there, it's close enough. I used some matte Mod Podge to stick that to my tin, adding more Mod Podge on top to seal it in. I wanted to make it sort of textured like a real sweater. So I found some of this 3D fabric paint and used that to go over the lines that I drew. I was originally going to make the sweater design out of clay, but I figured that this would be easier. If you decide to do this, be warned, this is not easy on your hands. I had to stop and take a break in the middle, but puffy paint was definitely the right move. The only problem was that it dries with a gloss finish, so I ended up adding this matte top coat from my gel nail polish set on top to make it look a little more realistic. I thought about doing blue ribbon to match Rory's uniform on the edge of the tin, but I wasn't in love with how that looked, so I ended up sticking on some white ribbon instead. And after all that, here's how the outside turned out. If you want to see how I do the inside, make sure to come back for part 2. Let's decorate the inside of my Gilmore Girls Altoids wallet. I found this fall-themed fabric to use for the top. I thought this kind of went with this part of the opening theme in the show. I just traced my template onto the fabric, cut that out, then cut a piece of elastic to fit on top. I pinned the elastic to the middle of my fabric, then stitched it down by hand. I went back and forth between a book charm or this dragonfly charm, but I ended up going with the dragonfly because I ripped a page out of a book to go on the bottom of the tin. Rory Gilmore would probably be horrified. I stuck that to the bottom of my tin with some double-sided tape and used some E6000 glue to stick the fabric piece that we made earlier to the top. Have you ever bought a ton of fancy stickers thinking that it would make you use a planner because that does not work? I found this page of coffee cup stickers and they had stars on them, stars hollow. I thought that was perfect, so I stuck one of those in the corner. I wanted to use one of these mini coffee cups inside. This came with some kind of squishies, I remember, back when everyone was obsessed with those, but they were too big. I was a little disappointed because I have a really good idea for these, and I still have an idea for these, so if you want to see that, follow me, I guess. And here's how the finished wallet turned out. It's definitely a little bit more subtle, but I think this came out so cute. My mom was not here for Bratz Dolls when they first came out. Personally, I just wanted the one named Megan because we have the same name and she had brown hair, like it was not that serious. But anyways, for this Altoids wallet, I wanted to use one of these Bratz mini dolls. Since she wasn't going to be standing up, I cut off the little purple base with an X-Acto knife. When I did the memoir-inspired wallet, a bunch of you guys said to sand the top of the tin first, so that's what I did. I thought it would be cute if I made it look like the Bratz doll was making a little snow angel. So I traced my tin onto some scrap paper, put the doll on top, then sketched out a snow angel shape. I cut that out, then added the caulk to my tin. I used a popsicle stick to spread everything out, then stuck down the paper snow angel cutout. I traced around that with a toothpick, then carefully lifted the paper back up. I used the toothpick to sort of carve out the snow angel shape a little bit more. I kept the caulk a little bit thicker in the middle so I could stick on the Bratz doll. If you look at a real snow angel, the snow is kind of thicker around the edges. So I used a toothpick and a little more caulk to try to build those up a bit more. I thought it still looked kind of plain, so I added a few pearl beads to the top to look like snowballs. I didn't think the snow angel stood out enough, so after the caulk dried, I went around the edges with some gloss Mod Podge, then added some white glitter on top. Then did a second coat of Mod Podge over the glitter so it wouldn't fall off. I kept the edges on this one pretty simple. I just used some more Mod Podge to stick on some pink 1/4" ribbon. And here's how it turned out. If you want to see how I decorate the inside, make sure to come back for part 2. Let's decorate the inside of my Bratz mini Altoids wallet. I found this blue scrapbook paper. I know when you think of Bratz, most people don't think blue, but stick with me on this. Okay, so I traced around the template that I made, cut those out, then stuck the paper to my tin with some double-sided tape. I wanted to add a mirror to this one, so I found this 2-inch mirror tile and sort of made my own frame for it using flat back pearls and some snowflake embellishments. I like using UV resin for things like this because it's a little more secure and it dries faster than most glues. Once the frame was done, I used more resin to stick mini magnets to the back of my mirror. Since I used the Bratz mini doll on the outside of the tin, I had an empty box left over. Actually, I had 2 empty ones. I'll show you guys what I did with this doll in a future video. I cut out the pictures of the girls from the back of the boxes. My original plan was to glue them directly inside the tin, but since the images were printed directly on the plastic, I decided to use more UV resin to turn these into magnets as well. I kind of domed the back with resin so that it would be flat. I cured that under my lamp, stuck the magnets in my tin, and here's how it turned out. I used this to store the Bratz mini makeup that came in the advent calendar. Has anyone actually tried to use this? I love that it's real makeup, but I feel like that would be a little bit of a challenge. Been making these little Altoids wallets. Apparently they're very controversial. I used a tin from Amazon and people got very upset. It was a whole thing. People would just exhaust me, honestly. But the reason that I wanted to do this in the first place is because August 5th, 2012, I made a video literally doing this exact same, like the exact same thing, except I did recycle a tin that time. Here is my very first Altoids wallet. Took like an empty like Sucrets tin, which is like a medication, but you could use like a mint tin or like an Altoid tin or something. See, I told you, Altoids are gross. I stand by that. People keep tagging Altoids and it's like, nothing against them. Like if they brought back the sour ones, like maybe we would talk, okay? But I'm sorry, I just don't like them. Like I did not realize that was such a hot take, but apparently it is. And I just put this picture from a perfume sample on it. And I put the little Coke thing also from the perfume card that the sample came on the back. So yeah, you just open it like that. And then in it, I have a bunch of stuff that you would need. Like an emery board to like, because I mean, I'm always like breaking my nails or something. And speaking of that, nail clippers, a little chapstick that I get for free. Wait, I put the same that I thing. Go to. Yeah, okay. I think I put nail clippers too. This little like bread clip thing. Oh, this is the most random thing. Like what this is for? Well, like if you break a flip flop, like you can just like if you have your flip flop, you can, and if you break like this part comes out, you can just like put it around that. Okay, life hack. I'm pretty sure I actually did end up doing the bread clip thing at one point, and like it kind of worked. Flip-flops were $1 at Old Navy. I could have just gotten new flip-flops, which I don't think, do they even do that anymore? I don't think that they do. It's very sad. And I used to put in so much effort. I literally do not do anything. But I'm always losing my hair ties, so, or like not having a hair tie when I need one, so this is really useful. True. My cats always steal them. I have this eraser because I am always losing my erasers. Cool. Yes, I understand. 2 bobby pins and a paper clip. Okay. And then I have a match, which I probably won't take to school, but this is just like an idea.
like, I'm not promoting this or anything, but you can, like,
what are you doing?
light it on the emery board.
Can you? I don't know. I don't think I ever tried it.
This would be good, like, if you're, like, kind of, like, stuck in the woods or something. Like, you could, like, make a fire, or if that would ever, like, happen to you. I don't know.
Okay,
Then
I see.
just have a stick of gum, and, which is, like, if you have bad breath, and then
why am I, like,
Band-Aid, it has SpongeBob on it, and this, like, mini thing of toothpaste. I wanted to put in one of those mini, like, wisp toothbrushes, but we didn't have any.
I see what she means.
So I just found this and I put it in, and I guess you could just, like, use your finger. Like, I don't know if that's gross or not.
That is gross.
No, I don't know. We've done that at Girl Scout camp before.
Okay.
And then I just have this,
Exposed.
like, wipe.
I mean, it's better than nothing.
That was all that was in there. And now I'm gonna show
Yeah,
you
people
guys just
suggested
some, like,
that
essential
too.
things.
It just, like, goes into, like,
I know I do
what's in my
mine.
purse, pretty much. Question of the day. If you've made an Altoids wallet, what did you put in it? And if you made one, did you actually, like, use it for more than, like, a week? I used it to keep perfume samples in, like I said, until, like, 2020, and then I threw it out because the perfume samples were all gross and from, like, 2012. So anyway, does anyone actually use perfume samples? That's another thing, because I always get them. They usually smell gross. I just have, like, issues apparently, because apparently I think everything's gross, but